Hi there, Leo. Welcome to your August 2018 Astro Update. It's Raina here. Happy birthday to all Leos, whether you're born in late July or August. The sun is in your sign as the month begins. That must feel really awesome. Not just because when the sun goes into that first house, you feel a sense of vitality, but also Leo is ruled by the sun, so you might feel it even more deeply than the average person. And another thing to note as the month begins is that there's a Mercury retrograde in your sign. So I'm wondering how that plays out to have your birthday happen when Mercury goes retrograde, is retrograde. I wonder if that happened to me a couple of years ago. I'll have to check back. It's going to feel like things are a little bit tentative. My feeling, I don't know if there's any astrological basis for this, is that in September, when the new moon is in Virgo, that might be a time of more feelings that you are actually experiencing the solar return benefits. Like, just having Mercury retrograde in your sign means that you're rethinking so much about yourself that it doesn't really feel like anything new. It feels like you're kind of in makeover mode. So there's another reason why I feel that some of you are going to look to that Virgo new moon on September 9th more than the solar eclipse, because for some of you who are born, you have to take this as a general thing. If you're born like on August 12th and beyond, this new moon, which is a partial solar eclipse, is falling in your 12th house. So that's kind of the unfinished business house. And that is not the, let's move forward house. That's the last house of the zodiac. So in September, the new moon will be in your first house, and that will probably feel a lot more like looking forward. And there's a lot of review for Leos in August. And that, by the way, that thing I just said about the solar eclipse in the 12th, that's also true if your rising sign is 19 degrees of Leo and above. So again, this is just a general forecast to give you basic ideas of energies, but mileage may definitely vary based on your individual charts. And if you're watching for the sun in Leo, your rising sign and your natal chart, which is really used for predictive purposes, could be way different. It could be any sign, and this would be totally moot on that level, if that made any sense to some of you. So as the month begins, and we have this kind of like, Mars is retrograde too. So there's all this kind of like stuff from the past coming back at us to kind of look at, all of us from all signs. But for you, having Mercury retrograding in your own sign is making you rethink maybe the way that you communicate. That first house is the way that you project yourself to others. And Leo is always, I think, very concerned about their image. And so this may really hit hard, where you might say to yourself, how do I interact with others? And how does it benefit me in terms of how I am perceived? And some event may have occurred before this that made you think about it, or perhaps it's just par for the course since you're going through your solar return, that you should be thinking about your who you are and what you're all about. On the 6th of the month, Venus goes into your third house in the sign of Libra, which is a friendly angle, a sextile, and really the energy is free flowing. I want to get to that third house, but I want to talk about that second house, because if you're watching in July, and I keep saying watching like you're staring at a screen, there's nothing to see except a picture, but sorry. The Venus in the second house is nothing to sneeze at, because that is the house that Venus rules in the sign of Taurus, and it deals with the money that you earn. It deals with your possessions, luxury items, and even your self-esteem, which is an intangible thing in a house that is all about tangibility. So you may be feeling more confident, if that's possible for a Leo, and you may be experiencing a boost in your income for whatever reason because of this nice little transit. Venus can bring money wherever she goes, but when it's in her own house, I mean, cha-ching, right? And then on the 6th, Venus goes into that third house, which is perfect for people who want to work on the internet or who already do so. If you've already started a blog, you've already started a YouTube channel or a website, you may start seeing money from that. And if you have started teaching, that could be, you could even combine teaching on the internet and do tutorials. And that would be very nice. That would be very apropos for this type of an energy. But you could gain money from it. You could find that it's very easy for you to do it, and therefore you're successful at it. You could be also receiving money from any kind of writing project, and you could be restoring harmony with siblings. Third house can be brothers and sisters. It can be neighbors. If you've had a running feud with a neighbor, maybe that'll get resolved. And it can even be your local area. So you could find love, at your local cafe or something like that. And that would be cool. The very next day on the 7th, Uranus goes retrograde in your 10th house of career. Isn't that interesting? Because Uranus just recently entered this house in mid-May in the sign of Taurus. Uranus has a 7-year cycle. And Uranus has been in your 9th house in fellow fire sign Aries. It will be dipping back during this retrograde period into a late degree of Aries. So it will be in that 9th house at some point again. And the Uranian energy is very unpredictable. So if we apply that to your career sector, you could be seeing some wild swings with career. Maybe in the next 7 years, you just abruptly shift careers left and right. And it might be very uncharacteristic for you as a fixed sign, Leo, to be doing something like this. But I also can't help but wonder if during the next 7 years, you could experience sudden fame. Now, obviously, if you are an insurance salesperson, chances are fame is not going to be the same thing that I'm talking about. But if you are in the entertainment field, some field with that publicizes your triumphs to the world, you could see maybe just a sudden viral video or something, because Uranus connects with technology. So it could be along those lines where you just have a very quick rise to the top. The 10th house is like the top. And Uranus makes you I think Uranus is really great here in terms of embracing technology for whatever it is that you do. And even if you do it to some degree, maybe you're not doing it enough, or with the right medium that could really put you over the top, perhaps. And that's what you should be focusing on. But something very interesting along those lines. And then, but when it's retrograding, it could be even more kind of chaotic and hard to contain. So the best advice is to make use of the positive Uranian characteristics of a transit in the 10th house, making use of media as much as possible, trying to promote yourself to the masses. Even if you are an insurance salesman or an accountant, you're doing something that, you know, typically we would not use social media for. Maybe there's something that you can do, starting a YouTube channel to help people learn about finances, and you never know where that could take you. And that's the exciting thing about doing things on your own. You have, you know, the sky is the limit. It's limitless. So the solar eclipse occurs on the 11th, and this is, as I said before, 18 degrees of Leo in your first house of the self, new beginnings in the next 6 months, and maybe a new lease on life for some people who have been going through some stuff perhaps. And you know, especially relationship issues, we're coming off of a lunar eclipse at that point, which occurs either on the 27th or 28th of July. And you may be reeling from the after effects of that, and you really feel this sense of forward movement on the 11th, a turning point of sorts. And on the 12th, the very next day, Mars goes into Capricorn. When I say it goes into Capricorn, it's retrograding right now. Mars started retrograding in late June in your opposite sign, your opposite house, the 7th house. I'm talking about, the 7th house of relationships. So not only are you having right now, or did you just have a lunar eclipse in that 7th house, but you also had Mars running through there. And that means that could indicate conflict, an old conflict coming back up to the surface. Now, if you're somebody who got divorced or was in the final stages and about to maybe sign some documents, something may have happened to like totally open up a can of worms. And it was like, okay, round 2, ding, 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 round 2. And so you may be sparring with an ex-partner all over again. Or this could be like in your current relationship, an old issue comes back to be re-examined and fought over. And Mars goes direct. I'll talk about that at the end of the month, though. But now Mars on the 12th re-enters your 6th house of work. So this is another indication with the 6th house energy that something related to career matters may be happening. And in other words, along with that new moon in your first house of the self, kind of new beginnings, you have Uranus going retrograde in that 10th house. And then you also have this Mars retrograding in the 6th house of work. So if there's any kind of conflicts reopening with coworkers, with perhaps you have to redo something that you submitted that you thought was perfect and you realize that needs more work. Something along those lines. And then on the 19th, Mercury goes direct at 11 degrees of Leo, first house of the self, really kind of resolving something about yourself, the way that you present yourself. And that can be very helpful moving forward because with Mercury in your sign, you really can present a united front to others. If you're looking for a job or you want to change jobs, with Mars in the retrograde in the 6th house, you may just decide, screw it, I need to just leave this place because it's not getting any better. And so you may have been kind of rethinking a lot of things during the Mercury retrograde in your sign. And now you're ready to move forward and you're able to be on point with your message of who you are, what you're about. So you can sell yourself to a future employer or sell yourself to a new partner even. On the 26th, there's a full moon at 3 degrees of Pisces. This is going to be in your 8th house of other people's money. So this could be finding out about a will. Now, full disclosure, the 8th house is also the death house. So full moons, I've read about this where they say, should you predict that somebody's going to die when there's a full moon in the 8th house? And my feeling is I actually experienced this myself, but I had an additional hit that this had to do with my sun sign because my sun sign is in the 8th house. So it's possible that if you do not have any planets in the 8th house, and of course you'd have to know your chart to know this, and if they're not within that orb of 3 degrees of Pisces, then it might not really affect you altogether. But if it does, it could be some secret coming out too. And it could be that things are revealed to you that were previously kept hidden. Even though I did experience the death of somebody close to me during that particular transit, what was also interesting was other things that I did not know about that situation coming to the forefront. And, you know, it's one of those things where sometimes we are not in touch with people in our lives. And so we don't know exactly what's going on in their life. And these kinds of situations make us aware. Full moons in the 8th house or the 12th house can kind of enlighten us where the people themselves may be tight-lipped, right? So secrets could come out. And also with inheritance, you could be made aware of it and have to deal with this kind of a thing in some way. Or it could be the end of some kind of a battle. Actually, with Mars, when it retrograded in the 7th house, up until the August 12th, that might have been in a court of law. So it might have been about an inheritance. And now it gets resolved on the 26th? Who knows? So the very next day, on the 27th, Mars goes direct in that 6th house of work. So then it's almost like coming to kind of some peace about your situation. Now, for some of you, the peace may be that you're going to leave because you might realize that these battles will never be resolved. And this is something that may feel very sad to you because you held hopes that you'd be able to make it work, but it is what it is. With Leo, the danger is always of not taking action when they know that they should, because you tend to be adverse to change. I think that for all of us, September is going to be a much better time for these new beginnings, because everything is kind of up in a state of flux. You know, we have the eclipses in July and August, the retrogrades of Mercury and Mars. We will have Venus going retrograde in October, but September looks to be a pretty green light type of month. And I haven't looked at it fully, but at least we will, I think, see some relief from some of these one step forward, two step back types of energy. So that's what I have for you, Leo. And I hope that you enjoyed this. And if you like this type of reading, I offer natal chart interpretations where I look at all of your personal points, your personal planets, and see what makes you tick. And also looking at what houses your planets are in. And I also, with that type of reading, take you out a year and look at some of the transits, what I call the trends, the astrological trends, because I'm trying to get more big picture on this to kind of give you where is Pluto in your chart? What is being transformed within you right now? And where is Saturn? Where is this discipline needed? Where are you going to get a boost from Jupiter and things like that? So if you're interested, and I also offer just the trends themselves. I'm going to link both of those readings below. I wish you all the best in August. Happy birthday once again. Take care. Bye.